Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Charles Matthews Show. I got a great guest for you. I hope everybody's doing well. Let somebody know it's time for the Charles Matthews Show. Wake up. Let's just go. Now, I don't want to waste no time with an intro because this next gentleman, I want to give him the most time on stage because all my guests fill out this little form, this little bio, and the story this gentleman has to tell. I want to get right into it because I think it's going to help a lot of people out there. So please welcome to the show, Trace. Give him a big round of applause.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Charles?
I'm good. I'm good. Before we start, tell everybody where you're calling in from.
I'm calling probably about a half hour north of Milwaukee, the home of the Harley Davidson.
All right, there you go. Are you a basketball fan?
You know what? I'm not much of any major sports fans, unfortunately. I never really got into it, even coming up through school and what have you. I mean, I got involved in, cheerleading. Actually, I was in gymnastics, and then my dad retired from the service, and we settled in Southern California, and the school system I was in didn't have a male competitive gymnastics team. So the closest thing I could get to that was cheerleading. Plus, the girls. What can you say?
What to say? Listen, you're the smart one out of everybody. Where the rest of us is banging up against other guys. You're like, hey, don't worry, I'll lift them, I'll throw them.
I got you. Right?
Smart man, right there. So please introduce yourself and tell us. Let's talk about your story because I really want to get into it. When I read your bio and I go, this gentleman has a story to tell that could help others. So let's.
I'm the humble Tracy Brinkman. I have a host of my own podcast. I do business and success coaching. I've been, I'm going to call it, I've been on both sides of the tracks. I've been on the dark side. I actually shared some of that with you in the bio where, I got hooked in the world of alcohol and drugs and really went down a dark path for a couple of years and then was able to get myself out of it. I had an awakening moment that it was like, okay, you're at this Y in your life. You can go down one road and continue down and probably end up in jail or dead, or you can go down another road and hopefully some better things will happen to you.
Let's start with that first then.
Sure.
Because you talk about, you weren't into sports. So we're like, well, he didn't get it from sports because,
no.
sports, he's in cheerleading. So he can't get it from there. Is like, so what at that moment got you to say, I gotta go down this path? What was it?
I'll step back for a quick moment. And like I alluded to, my dad was in the military, right? He a 23-year veteran of the United States Army. So I grew up all over the United States. I actually spent a number of years over in Germany when he was stationed there. And when he finally retired, mid high school time for me, he retired in Southern California. So away went all the structure, right? All that discipline. And now I'm in probably one of the more liberal areas of the world, let alone of the United States. And so there was like, oh, wow, all these cool things are available. But right out of high school, I went back and I joined the military myself and went back to Germany. And then when I served my 6 years, I came back to Southern California. Now I've got a little different look on life, a couple of years older. And I started a computer consulting business. And this is probably just at the start of the dot-com boom. I was doing computer programming, making some pretty good coin in the process. And therein started the path because now I've got some money in the pocket. I'm hanging out with another echelon of people. Yeah. And there comes the whole, that Coke and the speed scene, right? And alcohol and I was like, oh, yeah, let me just take it all in. You start off and it's all cool and it's fun, right? But then it hooks you, right? It's like I don't know. It's like a bad disease.
Right.
And I actually started using it as a way. I started selling it to feed my habit, which meant I started shying away from the whole business thing, right? And I got into that drug scene pretty deep. and I was out partying for a couple of days straight. And I came home and I found the door to my condo had been kicked in.
Mm.
And I thought it had been robbed, and come to find out it was the police. The police had raided my condo. So
Wow.
I gotten their attention, right? I was on someone's radar screen. And so, and I thought to myself, holy shit. And it was just like you see in the movies, right? Furniture is all jostled around, stuff is thrown everywhere, mashed potato mix and cereals all over on the floor. They're looking for stuff. But it's no joke. It was everywhere.
Right.
And, I think if it had just been me, I probably would have made a different decision. But I had a 4-month-old baby at the time,
Oh.
and she was my life. And I actually paused and thought for a moment, holy crap, it's not just my life I'm impacting anymore. It's this new life that I brought into the world that I just love with my dear heart. And that's why I made the decision and to clean up my life and clean up my act and my body, get that poison out.
Mhm.
But I couldn't do it alone. It was luckily I had some very supportive parents and a gentleman I called him my brother. We probably met in my early teens and knew each other until he passed away a couple of years ago. So he was my brother as far as I'm concerned. So with their help, I got out of that scene. I'm totally, and this is the thing, if anyone's toying with that arena, to get out, you've got to get completely away from it, right? You got to get away from anyone you associate with. Otherwise they will, I think, my personal opinion, suck you back in. Like
Right.
that movie quote, right? I want to get out, but they keep pulling me back in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got out, and my psyche, my self-confidence was so damaged. I didn't feel worthy just to go right back in to doing some of that high-paid, programming stuff. So I literally started doing day jobs, working in offices, doing filing, working in a warehouse, just to build my self-confidence back up. And I got it back up there, and put myself back out on the market and landed a good role with the Coca-Cola company, which started my corporate America rise. We'll end up going and working with them at their headquarters. From Coca-Cola goes to Home Depot, from Home Depot to, a company called Frontgate, then David's Bridal and Victoria's Secret. So I started that rise, but it wasn't, until after I went through that dark phase and said, holy crap, I could have made a completely different life decision. You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this though, because there's a point that you said something, get my confidence back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, why do you feel like you had to get confidence back? Like, did the drugs hinder you? Did it take away? Because Rudman, like you said, you open up your own company.
Yeah.
You're making money. What part of confidence did you felt that you lost?
I say confidence, but it may have just been my self-worth. My feeling worthy of going back and presenting myself to a client or to a company saying, hey, I can do great things, because I came out of the military. I was oh yeah, right. Got to pound my chest.
Right.
But now, I've been playing with some seedier folks, and I didn't feel worthy to go back to say, hey, Charles, yeah, here's what I could do for you and your company, and let me start showing you things. You're like, didn't I just see you out of the club doing all that stuff over there? And you're, well, yeah, that wasn't me. So I think that was more of that, getting my self-confidence and that self-worth built back up to go back out and present myself to the market.
So then let me ask you this one question, because a lot of people are like, well, okay, that's easier said than done. But what did you do personally to get that confidence back?
Well, like I said, it was literally, I started, just doing day jobs where I feel like, okay, I could do this. That's cake. I go out there, do some office jobs, do some warehouse jobs. But in the meantime, I'm doing, I'm going to be cliche here. I'm doing that personal development, reading the good books, be they the Bible on up, through the Zig Ziglars and the Jim Rohns of the world, finding that good stuff, from, all those folks out that put out the Earl Nightingale was a big influence back in those days. Would have been, we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s at this point, right?
Okay.
So just literally just doing anything to build that self-confidence back up. And when I landed the role at Coca-Cola, it wasn't a big, hey, I'm an executive role. It was, it was a parts expediter role. And I went in there and I just threw myself at it. I used my programming skills to build myself some tools to be really good at the job. And they recognized that, and that recognition made me feel better and got me a promotion. And it just became this nice, cool cycle of me giving and them recognizing, and then getting recognized and promoted as a result.
So you basically, how am I say this? You restacked yourself to get back to the level.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit here, a little bit here. You're like, okay, next phase. Okay, I remember how to do this next phase. And then after a while, you're like, I'm good again. This is the way
good.
I'm good again.
Absolutely. And it was putting yourself, it was putting myself out there, but in a safe spot, and then I finally had to push the comfort zone a little bit and say, okay, I can sit there and do these safe jobs for a while, or I can put myself back out there and, risk it. You're not going to risk it. You're not going to get anything until you risk it. Right.
Right. So then I'm reading your bio.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, okay, so you went up off drugs. Everything is good now. But is it?
It is. It is. But then, of course, as we all know, life happens, right? Life throws another poop pie into my face.
Okay.
I'm in Coca-Cola. We're probably about halfway into my career. My second daughter is born, and she's born with what they referred to as a distended abdomen. So she had a big, huge tummy as she came out when she was born. And what had happened is during probably the first trimester, one of the arteries feeding her intestinal tract didn't fully develop. So her intestinal tract didn't fully develop. And your small intestine, when you're born, normally you'll have 200 plus centimeters. She had like 23. So she could eat and absorb nutrition, but not enough to sustain life. All right. So during the first 3 months of her life, she went through 6 major operations just to try different things to make her self-sustaining. I mean, they even tried, taking like her small intestine apart, making 2 thinner tubes, and then connecting them end to end in the hopes that would work. But it didn't, unfortunately. And it's a very complex operation because, the way the blood vessels feed around the intestine, they have to pull it apart a certain way to create that tube to connect it end to end. But it wasn't enough. They installed a TPN line, which is called a total parental nutrition line, which is basically just the raw nutrients that we as humans need. And it went in right above her heart. So literally the fluid came in through the tube just above her heart, and then it pumps it out. Well, the body, being the amazing thing that it is, said, oh, well, if you're going to do that, you don't need me to filter anything with this liver thing here. So I'm going to start deteriorating that because you're not using it. So now she needs a liver and a small bowel transplant. They get her stabilized. And she's going along and she's doing, she's just a regular kid. She's a baby just doing her normal thing. Right. But as a parent, once we get her on the list, all you can do is wait and hope, right? Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, I still have my first daughter, right? And she's looking at me with the big, beautiful eyes going, hey, Daddy, how are things going? So now you're trying to teach these life lessons to someone who's like 4 or 5 years old, and still you've got all this worry and all this fret going on. So there's that weird balance of things that's going on inside your head. And about halfway into it, so probably about 9-10 months into it, we had to take Mom and Krista, it was my second daughter's name, and send them up to Pittsburgh because that's where the operation was going to happen. They were the best surgeons there. We were living in Atlanta, still working for Coke, as I mentioned. And so, my oldest daughter and I would fly up there every weekend or two just to go visit and, try and be a family as much as we could. But, here we go. So there's the added pressure of that going on in the marital relationship. Right. And about month 17, she took a real wicked turn for the worst, and her health started to deteriorate really fast. And she was in the ICU a lot. And anyone who's a parent will understand what I'm about to say. Mm-hmm. You can look at your child and say, there's something wrong.
Yes.
And even though there's already a bunch of things wrong with her, you know you had a baseline, but you're looking at your daughter and you're going, all right, there's something just not right here, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm up there for one of the visits, and I pulled the doctor aside and it says, I got to ask, if the organs became available right this minute,
Mm-hmm.
do you think she'd survive the operation? I get a lot of doctor speak, a lot of politically correct stuff. And they said, look, dude, no joke. I grabbed his shirt and I pulled him into the janitor's closet and closed the door. And then look, it's just you and me now, right? Man to man.
Mm-hmm.
And re-asked the question and finally got the answer. He did not believe she would survive the operation.
Wow.
Okay, not the answer I wanted to hear, but all right, now I know. So the follow-up question is, do you think her health would improve to the point where she would survive? More doctors speak, but finally the answer he gave was, I don't believe. Actually, I believe she's going to get worse in probably a really short period of time. So now I'm left with the tough decision. And I say obviously it's the two of us at the time.
Right. But you got the tough decision because you know the answers.
I know the answers, right? And right now she's on a respirator, and that's what's keeping her alive, So you have, and this is a personal decision for anyone to make. And, I respect anyone's, differing opinions on this.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that if I was keeping her here, I was keeping her here for me.
Yeah.
Right. That's selfish. I love you. I want to keep you here.
Mm-hmm.
God, I want to hope she could have been better. But here I have all the professionals saying, I really don't think so. Right. So made that tough choice, disconnected her from the machines, and literally, no joke, sat down in the rocking chair in her ICU room and rocked her to sleep one last time. Now, wispy-eyed. As tough it is to even share that story, it is a part of who I am, and I'm thankful I had that moment because I could sit down and tell her goodbye and thank you for all the wonderful life lessons that she taught me in her short time here. She had this amazing thing of looking at the world around her that you and I probably take for granted. And she's like, oh, wow, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie E.T.? Remember the scene where he's going like this and that little finger starts glowing?
Yeah.
Well, she did the same thing. We always called it the E.T. finger.
Okay.
Whenever she was introduced to something new she hadn't seen before, be it a food or a stuffed animal or a toy, she'd reach out and touch it with that finger. Once she did it, but like any other baby, it's like in her mouth and she's playing with it, right? So it was that amazing view. And we always knew she was in pain going through a lot of things she was going through, but it didn't stop her. She always met new people with a smile and these big blue eyes. She was yellow with jaundice. People thought she had this amazing hand, so when I was rocking her to sleep that last time, I was telling her all the things that she taught me and how I was going to try to do my best to teach that to her older sister and anyone that was willing to listen.
Gotcha.
So that was a major turning point for me because it was like, I knew I could take that dark path. I'd been down it and I knew how easy and seductive it was. But, I was making this conscious effort and I was using that moment to make that promise to travel a better path, right? Try and be a better father, a better man, better husband, better everything in her honor. So that was a big turning point. And then I think probably turning point number 3, because again, life happens, things keep going on, right?
Yeah.
The woman I was married to at that time, I don't think took that death as well. And not that we ever can, right? Everyone grieves in their own way. Everyone processes things differently. But there was a lot of, I'll call it an abusive relationship. And I don't mean that in a physical sense. There was a lot of anger and things going on inside that everything else was the reason things happened to her.
Yeah.
Right. It's your fault. Charles, this is the reason this happened to me. Tracy, this is the reason this happened to me. You, Mr. Stranger, you cut me off. Right. There's this festering anger and it didn't get any better. So it was about 10 years of, going through that. And I finally thought, you know what, here I am trying to be better. And don't get me wrong, right? I was part of the problem in the relationship. I'm not Mr. Perfect. Not going to say it's all her fault because I had my foibles as well. But at some point you got to say, you know what? Is this right for us? Is this right for me? Right? I'm carrying all this crap. Right. Now, of course, I want to say a different word, but I want to go there. I'm carrying all this crap, and I know I can see, right? Just over there is this better vision of what life could be, but I don't see you in it. You
Mm,
know? And so when my daughters got out of high school, it was like, I think this is done, right?
yeah.
I think we just need to go our separate ways. And it wasn't a wonderful, separation. We don't talk to each other. So I can't come up with you and with this awesome story. It's like, hey, now we're friends and everything's great. It's not, right?
Okay.
She's dealing with her thing. I'm doing my thing. And one of the things I did do, and please feel free to shut me up any moment, is coming out of that is I was always an avid goal setter in my business world, right? And I finally sat down and said, you know what, I'm going to try the same tactic with relationships, right? So I could sit down and if there was a project idea, I would like write out, here's what I want this to look like, and here are the steps to get there, and blah, 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 blah. I sat down and said, you know what, if I was to create this perfect woman for me,
Yeah.
what would that entail? Right. And obviously, being a guy, the first thing I do, right? Okay, she's going to be blonde. She's going to have blue hair. She's going to be skinny. Okay. Now we got all that out of the way. Right. But then you start looking at the things that really matter. Right. She's going to have this compassionate heart. Right. She's got to believe in all the major things that I believe in. I don't care if she has some differently beliefs in some of the, ancillary topics, right? But when it comes to the core things, religion, belief systems, politics, we probably want to be, really tight on those because everything else kind of falls by the wayside, right?
You can do it, yes.
We could deal with the rest of that stuff, and you literally just kind of writing all that out and going, okay, that's what I'm looking for right there. And this is no joke. Probably about 3-4 months later, I met her. And now I met her online, so I didn't know she was that person. But as I got to know her more and more over time, there's probably about 6 months or so. It was like, check, 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 check. She's now my wife. We've been married going on 4 years now, and very happy with her. So, through all the trials and tribulations, I think it's all about what can you glean out of that, right? What can you glean out of each one of those to say, okay, I've learned that lesson. It's time to step forward, right? Time to move on. And I think a lot of folks struggle with that moving on piece because they're so stuck in that dark cloud. Everyone says, hey, every dark cloud is a silver lining. And I think that's true, but you can really easily get stuck in that dark cloud, right?
Yeah. So here, let me ask you this question then.
Go for it.
Does she drive a Harley?
You know what? That was one of the cool things. That's what I did put down there, that she has to be motorcycle friendly.
Right.
Here's the great thing. She doesn't want to drive one. She wants to ride on the back.
There you go.
I'm like, sold, right? Put a ring on it.
All right. So then let's get to this. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to get to the nitty gritty now.
Okay.
How you took all this energy, all this passion and things that happen in your life and turned it into what you do now.
Okay.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right.
CMJ Entertainment is a one-stop shop. CMJ Entertainment helps people do any type of events, and it's a marketing tool as well. So we'll cover everything from start to finish. If it's a wedding, we'll make sure your wedding is over the top. And if it's an event, we make sure that everybody gets information at the end of the day. Give us a call at 416-414-8964 or online, go to cmjent.com.
Yes, we're back live with my good friend, the man that knows how to drive the Harley. So if you missed the first half, he's got a story that, some people wouldn't just understand. And I have to, before we move on, applaud you for stepping up and then being the great man that you are now. I know we've just met like a couple of times before the show started, but I can tell that your spirit and your heart is there. So let's just move on and show everybody else what you're doing to help them out.
Sure.
So talk about your business.
Well, I dabbled around for a while in the digital marketing space, doing the social media thing and everything. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is fun. It satisfies the geek in me. But I really think where I started resonating with folks is when I was starting to, have that, like this, just having that conversation with them, right? Just going back and forth saying, well, what are your dreams for your business or for yourself and what have you? And it started to click in that arena. So I really do do more of that. I still do business coaching, but more of that. I call it success coaching, which I think is kind of like a lot of folks call it life coaching, but I think it's more than that, right? It's like, well, yeah, we can guide your life, but you want to be successful, and whatever that means to you, where that means you want to start a charity, you want to run a church, you want to do, entertainment, whatever, right? You want to play basketball? I don't get it. Okay, you can play basketball, but whatever it is, your definition of success is, let's get you there, and let's define that happiness inside you and share that. And I find a lot of times folks, once they get past I want to make $150,000 a year. Got it. Right.
Yeah.
There's a target. Let's step that aside for a minute. But what do you want to do? Right. What energizes you inside? Because I've had a job where I was making that kind of money, but I wasn't happy. Now, mind you, I was happy I had money. I'm gonna be wrong. I'm not saying like Zig Ziglar says, I've been with money and I've been without money. Much rather be with, right? We got to eat, we got to have houses and pay the bills. But at the end of the day, you want to be happy internally. And then I think if you're happy internally, it really makes you much better at whatever it is you're doing. So if we can define that success and coach you through that, well, then there's the business side of it as well. And there you go, right? So we're going to take you on that journey to to up your game, as I like to say it. And I actually chose the phrase "the dark horse" because I think a dark horse, as I looked it up, are the folks that win that no one expected to, right? So I felt like, coming out of a couple of my dark times, there was those folks that didn't think I was going to rise back up out of the ashes, that I wasn't going to run my race, that I couldn't even win the race. They would even laugh when I tell them some of the ideas they had. So being that dark horse kind of resonated with me. And one of the folks that helped bring this out of me, he actually has a tagline for the underdog. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally identify with the underdog. I didn't want to steal it. So, I got to find my own version of it. Right. So, and it's all about finding your path, and hence this little moving road you have right on along here. It's like, we're all up walking down that road, whether it's in our life or in our business. We can see maybe one or two steps in front of us, and then it starts to get gray and foggy, and we're all like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, don't worry about that, right? Take those one or two steps, and then you'll be able to see a little further down the road, and then you'll take a few more steps. One of the big things we go through with in the coaching arena is obviously setting goals, as I alluded to earlier. And I think one of the big things some folks don't get about that is reviewing those goals periodically, whether that means quarterly or annually, because as you start walking down that road, whatever that road is for you, new things, new opportunities, new ideas, new experiences will come into your life that may change your mind in the direction that you want to go. Oh, well, I was thinking about this, but now I've started to find this magic that I'm really feeling passionate about over here. So you may think, hey, you know what? I want to go do public speaking. And you start, going down that path of being a public speaker, sharing your message. But then you start figuring out, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm so much better at pulling together the events. And I'm probably being moved by some of your commercial that I just saw right there. I'm more better behind the scenes and maybe just being that MC, right? And then so now you're even happier. You're still doing that public speaking you thought of, but you're doing it in a different light. So as you set that goal initially, things are going to change as you move along.
Right. And then here's, the stories and how you help people. Because as you mentioned in the beginning, you do have your own podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There it is right there. You can find it on probably all the major networks.
Absolutely.
Check it out. And on your podcast, what do you dive into?
We dive into mostly mindset and entrepreneurship. So I started the podcast kind of to share my journey that I've been through, as well as the journey I'm going on. And then I bring on, most of the time, you'll find most of the episodes, I bring on guests that have a unique story, in my opinion, to share. And then I have them, first part of usually the interview is just them sharing their story. You have folks like Tiffany Toombs who've been through some pretty traumatic events. Then you'll bring folks like John Watley, who's the author of the Millionaire Side Hustle, who didn't have traumatic events, but he had an event that totally changed the direction that he took his life. And then, then they start sharing some of their tips and some of their tricks from inside their business. And so it serves both sides. I'm a big proponent of, if you don't have your mindset, if your mindset is jacked, your biz set is jacked as well, right? So I don't care. You could have the greatest business idea, but if you don't have your mindset right, it'll probably get so far, and then you're not ready to carry it the rest of the way until you fix that wonderful tool between your ears.
All right. So now I want to pop this up. I ask everybody to give us a tip. And for some reason, your tip made me stop and read it like 5 times to really, I'm like, okay, I like that. That little moment there. So here, you can always train someone on skills, but you can't make someone value or fit your company after the fact. So yeah, you can. So the way I got it is, train them here. This is. But if they don't get the value and the fact of your company, it's a different feeling. You can teach them everything.
Yeah.
But if they're not on the same page as you, now what?
Yeah, I shared that because I think one of the things is that you can go so far as a solopreneur, and there's a number of solopreneurs that are very successful all on their own. But I think when you're ready to take yourself to the next level, you're going to be hiring folks. And I'm a huge proponent of hiring values,
right,
and then skill sets. Right. So if I'm interviewing you and we're jamming, we're jiving, I'm like, okay, this guy rings for me. And then I'm interviewing someone else and it's like, we're not quite clicking as well. Our values aren't quite as aligned, but he's got the perfect skill set. I'm going to come back to you and say, you know what? You and me are values aligned. I think you're a better fit for the organization and the environment that I'm trying to create here. And any holes in your skill set, we can train that up. So I'm a big proponent of hiring those values primarily, and then find the skill sets to back that up.
All right. So here's a question for you. Clients and saying, something, I think I like what this guy's saying. I think I want to talk to him. He can help me out. How does it work? Do you guys do one-on-one? Is it a group consultation? How does somebody, get to know and you can help them out?
Well, they can obviously you're sharing the all the goodies right there at the darkhorseschooling.com, and there's my phone number. Give me a call and we'll set up a consultation time. And it's literally, when I start off, it's a one-on-one, right? Do I feel I can help you? Are you looking for what I bring to the table? Because if you're not looking for what I bring to the table, then it's not a good mix for either one of us.
Right.
I don't want your money just to get your money, right? I got to know there's enough folks out there that could bring you value. And I know a number of other folks that do very similar things. I may say, here, I know the perfect person for you. It could be Charles, it could be John, it could be Zach, and I could direct you to there and make that connection. But if we do jive and you feel we jive and I feel we jive, well, let's make it happen. And then we'll set up, an ongoing coaching experience.
All right. So talk to me about this. I'm excited to see what this is. Dropping a new digital academy course planned for the end of September.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I find is so many people have this knowledge within them that they could share and they could monetize as well, right? Whether, it's something outside of your podcast arena or outside of what it is you do as a business, there's something you've done that I would pay to learn. And so what I'm doing here is I'm creating a method, right? This is almost kind of funny. I'm creating a digital course on how to create a digital course, right? So it takes you through in a what I call a non-overwhelming way. There's like 8 modules. It says, if you follow this step by step by step, by the time you get to the end of this, you'll not only will have a course put together, you'll have it up online, and you'll have some marketing already done for it that people will start coming into and be introduced to your course. Then it's a matter of, tweaking those little things. Hey, I can bring traffic to it, but am I converting it yet? Right. And then, we teach you all those things along the way. I think one of the unique factors about it is I come at you and say, you need to start marketing the course before it's ready. You need to start that buzz. So it's probably going to take you a month or two, or maybe even three. 3 is the outline I put out there to create your something from nothing. So start telling people you've got something big coming. Start the buzz while you're creating it. I'm not telling them come buy it before it's ready. I'm saying start the buzz so that when you're like, oh man, this thing's going to be ready in a couple of weeks, you're not trying to jam everything in 2 weeks. You've been slowly building that hype. It's like Marvel does with their movies. They started dropping hints to the big end game Avengers series that they did 10 years ago, and then slowly over time, they built that up and built that up.
And at the end of every movie, if you stay at the end,
yes,
credits,
yes, yeah, and see. And the podcasters do that too, right? They give you that little teaser. Oh, and the next episode, so-and-so is going to be telling you about, and you're like, oh man, I got to know that.
Love it. Well, listen, just to drop the little hints, like you said, you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and on Spreaker. This episode will be there. So make sure you tell a friend to watch, because this is a great man, great friend. I believe he's a friend of mine now, and I'm glad that you could come on the show, my friend.
My pleasure for being here. Thank you so much for having me, Charles.
So here it is. I always ask with the last question and the last Queen Wave. Here it is. If you could go back and talk to the cheerleader in you, what would you tell him if you can go back in time?
Oh my goodness! I've been asked that question a couple of times, and it's a tough one, because I know any advice I give myself would change it. I think the biggest advice I could give to myself was be yourself, because every time I found myself going down a dark path, I was trying to please the masses by being someone that wasn't authentic to myself. And every time I've been happy throughout my life, I've just been being me and surrounding with myself with those folks that resonate with that. Okay, if you don't agree with who I am, I'm cool with that. You go do you, I'll do me, right? And then I'm happy, and you're happy, and everyone's happy.
That's it. All right, my friend, we have something on the show here. It's called the Queen Wave. This is your opportunity to say bye to anybody, do any shout outs, anybody that's watching, family, friends, shout them out. This is your opportunity.
Okay. Thanks so much to Zach and to my lovely wife and my ladies. Thank you so much.
There you go, buddy. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Listen, that is a great guest. Listen, check out his stuff. His story is so phenomenal. I had to read the bio a couple of times and really get to know it, because in life, you're going to go through some stuff. But here's the question. How do you come out of it? What do you do with it? What's the knowledge you come out of it? And that's what he's doing. And that's what he's helping other people to teach them. So what better way to do it with a great person like that? You can hear his spirit, and you can hear that he loves doing it. And that's what he loves to do. So like I tell everybody, thank you for watching. You didn't have to, but I'm glad that you did. Be kind to somebody. We'll see you next time.
Has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged